Perfect. Hi, I'm Michelle, and welcome to episode 3 of Geared to Make. I went shopping last week at Trader Joe's and I got the coveted pumpkin spice tea. It is really good, and it was perfect for this last weekend. Rainy, cold, moody knitting. Really, I just hunkered down and I sewed quite a bit and knitted quite a bit as well. So, good times. Hopefully, you have a Trader Joe's near you or can find another type of pumpkin spice tea. So, no finished objects. However, I have several almost quite there. Um, to be continued, of course, is my Anna vest by Kieran Templer. I have completed the back, the right front, and am progressing with the left front. I think this is just going to be perfect for when it gets colder. I found the perfect blouse to put underneath, so I'm almost good to go. Once I get the left front done, I believe you do the edging, and I'm going to have to go back to Kieran's blog entry, Fringe Association, and look up how she had that in her knit along. I think there were some specific directions, but isn't the texture fabulous? I love this. And Progress Keeper from Hey Holly Ho Hum. Next up, I just couldn't stop myself and I started casting on willy-nilly and had some setbacks. Don't ever think that I'm the perfect knitter because I hit roadblocks all the time. First up, if you remember from last time, I started to make a pair of Norwegian gloves, and here was the first go. But as I progressed, after I split off for the thumb, there's something wonky there. The patterns weren't matching up right. In the pictures, the thumb is supposed to be in front, but you can see that totally knocks off my pattern. So I do really I have plenty of this yarn. I'm not sure how it ended up in my stash, but anyway, I really love the combination of this Kelly green and navy blue. So I'm going to go back and revisit this thumb. Sometimes I've found that I do much better knitting, especially Fair Isle or tricky patterns, making, I'm just going to call this a faux item or a really large swatch, because I can even out my gauge, which is what we're really going to talk about today. But that first go really gives me a better understanding of how the pattern works, and I do much better the second time around. So if I do anything, I'm going to frog back to right here and recalculate how to do that thumb the correct way so my pattern ends up right. But this was a fairly quick knit. I mean, I think I only did this in 3 or 4 evenings. So, it's DK weight yarn, Rowan tweed. So I still want to go back and revisit this. And if you put them on, they'd really make an adorable pair of fingerless mitts. You see how I got that wonky thumb. So, to be continued. Last night during football, I decided that I wanted something new to do or to knit, and I segued over to Dumbledores Facts, which is a pattern by Erica Luder. This is on Ravelry, and this is the yarn. I hate to say that I forgot to get the yarn label, but here's what the yarn looks like. And then here's the beginning of the sock. So this first sweater is a Patents design. It's called the Must Have Cardigan. This was my very first sweater that I made. Actually, it might have been my second sweater. Needless to say, I did not understand how gauge could affect both the yarn that you're using and ultimately the final fit. So I'm going to put in some pictures to go along with these sweaters because it'll be difficult to see how this actually works. So the must-have cardigan, first I started with this was a chunky denim yarn, which is not what the pattern called for. Second, I did not keep track of the gauge at all. And you can see that it's a very loose construction. And, I've got the cables and everything in there, but this is a huge sweater. Here I am. Here's the sweater. So I'll show you what this looks like in picture format. So first of all, if you're going to alter a pattern, or let me backtrack, if you are going to knit a pattern, you need to make a gauge swatch. Start off with the suggested needles and either the suggested yarn or a similar yarn of the same weight. Pardon me, I had to go get the gauge swatch. So the first sweater, the blue one made out of the chunky denim, I did not make a gauge swatch. So then I proceeded to be disappointed, of course, and gave the sweater to my mother. And then probably about a year ago, I asked for it back. The picture of this sweater, this is going to be someday when I have a farm, this is going to be my morning chores sweater, right? So we'll see. I'm saving that. Next up, I finally took a class, and this class I took up at Fiddlehead up in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and we made Isolde Teague's Kriya sweater. Now, before we even started to swatch or even touch our yarn, we had to measure ourselves, figure out what size to make, how to use those measurements, and adjust the pattern. And I will say up until about 3 months ago, this was the sweater that fit me the best out of everything I've made. And this is the Kriya sweater. This is made out of a Swan's Island fingering weight. So I believe I made this on size 3 needles. And it fits really well. So I was very happy with that sweater. And then I progressed on to Veronique Avery's Wake, which we talked about in one of the past episodes. And you can see that I made a very large gauge swatch because I wanted to know, what was going to happen to this yarn when I blocked it. And I'm really glad I did because this sweater fits me really well. Now, in the pictures I'm going to include, you can see that the sleeves are long, but that was my own personal decision. I like long sleeves. I want to be able to roll them up. And, this sweater, the Wake, came out beautifully. And I was able to block it and get it to fit how I wanted. And then when I rolled around and started my Anna vest, I made another gauge. And this one you can see that I made in pattern. So I was able to block this and test out the yarn. And you can see that it blocks slightly tighter than when I knitted it. So let's do a comparison here. This is in process. And then here's, I wonder if I should, let's see, can you tell a difference? No, it's kind of hard. So from swatch to in progress, and then ultimately blocked and wearing. Now, what kind of tools do I use when I measure my gauge? Susan Bates ruler. I love this one because it has this little foot. I don't believe she makes these anymore. She manufactures these anymore, but you can find them on eBay and on Etsy sometimes, possibly even a flea market. A friend of mine, Joe, gave me this one. And I really like it because it's got this little hook. So when you're measuring your gauge, you can really see where to start, where that hook begins. And then recently, Ann Budd created this see-through gauge ruler, and it measures, it helps you identify exactly where your stitches are. I think this is a brilliant, brilliant tool. And this is by Ann Budd. So you can just match up and then match up your stitches and count from there. So that's a fairly brilliant tool as well. And gauge is ultimately important because you'll be able to get the fit you want once you take the time to make that swatch. I mean, I can't tell you how disappointed I was. I actually call this sweater, the blue one, this is my marshmallow sweater because it's just like a big marshmallow. And it's huge. The sleeves, you'll see in the pictures, are probably a good 12 inches too long. So learn from my mistakes. Take gauge seriously. Take the time to make a swatch. I usually buy an extra skein of yarn so that I don't run out. Measure, block, and then proceed into that final garment. Because frankly, we're all not going to live to be 200 years old to complete all of the knitting projects that we have in our dreams. So why not make it a success from cast on to completion? So that's all I have to say about knitting this week. Look up a gauge ruler and go for it. Now, on the sewing front, I have been sewing quite a bit. I have dreams of a series of sewn garments to give as holiday presents. So first up, I have been in big production mode to make a... Mom, if you're knitting, or if you're watching, if you're knitting, I know you're knitting, Ma. You can finish your sweater and on to something else. Anyway, if you're watching, Dad has to leave the room now. Shh. So up on my plate, as I was suggesting before, I'm making a shirt for my dad. I'm using the Simplicity pattern 4975. It's a big man shirt, button-down shirt. I believe this is discontinued, but I found this one, actually I think I found this one on Amazon, but I've seen them on eBay and occasionally on Etsy as well. My father's shirt is complete except for buttons, which I just found last week, and the hem. The hem isn't done. This is a heavier weight flannel that I got from Joanns, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And you could wear this shirt inside out. All the seams are flat felled. I'm not sure what happened there. My recording stopped all of a sudden. Funky. So technically, this particular shirt you could wear inside out. All the seams are flat felled, which means when you sew the seam, you turn over and you sew it down on the right sides. So it really is turning out quite nicely. 2 pockets, and it's very long. I got the flannel for this shirt at Joanns. Now, I have been trying to purchase in other independent stores and through some online means as well. But I have not been successful in getting a heavier weight flannel, and Joann's is the only place I've been able to find that. Last week, they had a new selection up, and I bought this, which is heavy, a heavyweight flannel, and I'll be making PJ bottoms for my husband and my son. This is Butterick 5286. I believe this is still available. And this is a well-loved pattern. I've been making it ever since he was a little guy, my son. And now they've progressed to the adult pattern. But it's nice because it comes in the multi-sizes. And the boys like their pockets in their PJ bottoms. So that's next up on my plate. And then finally, I'll be making another shirt for another relative who's going to remain nameless at this point. And for that shirt, I just bought the McCall's pattern 6044. Button-down shirt, rolled sleeves. And I bought this particular flannel. Oh my gosh. I love this. I might have to get some for myself. What do you think? Good color for me? I like the brown. I'm a brown girl. A fall. Do you do colors? You know, red? Not sure red is for me. But, oh, I love this. So I've got those in the works. And then I also have 2 more PJ pants in the works out of this. It doesn't feel like flannel. It doesn't have that soft sheen to it. So I guess it feels almost like a linen. I would say it feels like a linen. So next up on my sewing plate, 4 pairs of PJ pants, 1 more button-down shirt for a relative, and then buttons and hem on my dad's shirt. So I'll have that all into place. And then I couldn't resist. I did a special order at Joann's for another heavyweight flannel, and I should be getting that this week. So I'm fairly excited. So we talked about knitting, we talked about gauge, we talked about sewing, which I'm in mass production mode because if I wait too long, then I become a sewing frenzy. And I don't know about you. If I sew when I'm in a hurry, I make a lot of mistakes. It's better just to do it when I have time. And then I'm using my book as my as my prop. So you might be interested to know what I've been reading. I haven't finished anything lately, but I've just started Elizabeth Lett's book, The Perfect Horse. And this is a nonfiction book about the Viennese horses and how they were saved during World War II. And you can tell I'm not very far into it, but I believe it's on the bestseller list, and it's a riveting read for those first 20 pages. So I thank you for following me once again. I encourage you to leave any comments so I can improve my webcast. Please join my Ravelry group. I'd like to do some giveaways and eventually a knit along, and subscribe on YouTube. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Happy knitting, happy sewing. Cheers.